What's up, SE Nation? Ramsey here. In case you didn't know me, I'm a sales engineer a solution specialist out of Ottawa, Canada, and I like to talk about sales engineering. Part of sales engineering is learning new technologies, one of which that I am interested in learning. It has really no effect on my career or my current job, is AWS. I wanted to learn, I wanted to do the solution architect associate certification. I don't know if I want to do the association, but I want to learn the content of that course. We'll see if I do the association. And I figured I could use you as an accountability partner. If anybody is looking to learn at the same time, you can follow along. I am a novice. This whole series is novice to little less novice. Right. So I'm not becoming an expert in it by any means. If you're looking for expert advice, I suggest you go talk to Trevor Spires or YouTube, a lot of different things. I'm taking a different approach where I'm actually sharing what I'm learning in the way that I'm learning it, not necessarily in the right way, right? Novice. So if you're listening to this and you already know more than I do and you feel I'm saying something wrong, please make sure you correct me. That's how I can learn and everybody can learn. Multiple people might be doing the same mistakes. So that's the intro to what I'm doing with this series. I'm going to try to publish one every Thursday, so you can follow along with my progress. Now, just some background of what I've tried to do so far. I've used the interwebs. I've used Chat GPT to look at stuff. When I talked to Trevor Spires, the aforementioned Trevor Spires, he basically mentioned a couple different places to learn. Which one is Udemy, the course created by Stefan Marik, and I bought that. I looked at it. It's good. I didn't enjoy it a lot. Like I had a hard time continuing the progress there. And one of the reasons is I'm a very hands-on learner, and the labs that they have is you have to log in, use your AWS free tier, follow along. But you basically you click for click. There is no I don't know what the end goal is. I can't try it on my own before seeing what I did right or what I did wrong. I just have to follow along to what he's doing. I don't find that very useful. And also, a lot of times he would say, well, if you don't want to pay a lot of money, don't do this part. I don't know if he says a lot of money. Well, he says, if you don't want to get charged, this is not free. Don't do this part. And at which point I start hesitating. So I didn't get the full benefit out of that. And quite frankly, I didn't finish it. I think I'm like maybe 40%. Actually, I can check that. But basically, I did not keep going with it. But something Trevor also mentioned was Cloud Guru, which, unbeknownst to me, was purchased by or acquired is the technical term, by Pluralsight. So I'm just looking. I am at 60% completed for the solution architect. Again, I didn't enjoy it, so I stopped. But I've been doing Cloud Guru, and the main reason I'm enjoying it, the courses are great. The way they draw you in is great, and also they have labs. So they do have they have quizzes. It's divided into sections. I'll talk about that. But they have hands-on labs, a couple of labs in each one. So for identity access management, S3, there's three. And they have different goals. So they state the goals, and I'll do probably a full review. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but they will tell you what to do in this lab. And even when you start the lab, which I'm not going to do right now, they will tell you what the goals are. Now, the one thing I like this for is because when you go into AWS and you look at the solution, like the exam guide, I found that complicated. I found that not easy to follow, mainly because they have different domains of study. Right? You have to know design secure architectures, resilient architectures, high performing architectures, etc. Now, the problem with that, or not the problem with that, is they have many services on AWS, and in order to do a secure architecture, you're going to have to use multiple services. So you have to use IAM, right, or a single sign-on. You have to learn about availability zones. Not that difficult. But you also have to learn about endpoints and Amazon Macy, which I've actually haven't learned that yet. But basically, there's multiple services you're going to have to learn. So this part it doesn't really clearly tell you what you're supposed to learn in each one. But it took me a while. I only found this out yesterday. If you scroll all the way down here, it's taken a while. They will tell you in the appendices, like, what is it that you need to learn, like for compute. Let's say compute, fun compute. You have to learn AWS batch, EC2, EC2 scaling, Beanstalk. So that makes it easier, and that translates into what you learn in Cloud Guru or with Stefan Medic. Doesn't really matter. But basically, you learn a combination of things. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the best way for me to learn is to understand why. And I asked ChatGPT earlier why, and they had a bunch of reasons, but this is how I've internalized it. Most companies before AWS, like we'll go way back when, each company had its own data center, even if their job is not a data center, but in order to function properly, they had data centers. So let's say, well, AT&T, they had a data center. ESPN, they have a data center that has all these servers. Whatever company you think of, they have it. Banks have data centers. Hospitals have data centers. Everybody has data centers. And what they used to have is what you see here is they would have to go in and buy these. Each one of these is a server, basically. Oh, what happened? So each one of these boxes that you see here, different color. Let's do green here. Each one of these that you see here is a server, right? And this could be like a database. So if you're at a hospital and you want information about a human being, it's usually stored in here. You could have this, which is running an application. Again, if you're in a hospital setting and you're running their hospital applications, some information where you can input all the information about the users. Let's say Netflix, I think they use AWS. They have a server that's running a video server. You have web servers, right? So all of these are on premises at each hospital, at each company. And let's say you're running an e-commerce store, and each Christmas you have a spike. Like you have a bunch of people, like people buying. Christmas comes in, and now you have a spike for a few days, and you go down. Then you have Black Friday. I don't know. I think they're not in order, but you know what I mean. And so basically, you have enough servers to run at this rate. But then, what do you do when you're going to peak? Are you going to buy more servers? Probably not. So that's where AWS comes in, for example. Or right now, like you're scaling before each year, you're looking at your data center and you say, all right, now we have 5 servers in the rack. By next year, we're going to grow into 10 servers. So let's go ahead and put in a purchase order for another 5 servers. This is 3 here, 4. Okay. So now we bought 5 more servers. But nothing goes according to plan. Projects are delayed, whatever. So now instead of utilizing these 5 servers, you've only utilized 1 server, and you have 4 servers just sitting around doing nothing. And that's not very economical, right? You just paid a lot of money. You have a lot of OpEx. They might be powered off collecting dust, which means when you turn them on, they might work or might not work, and you have to call in support. Or if you do turn them on and you're not using them, you need cooling, you need electricity, you need a bunch of stuff that happens when you're trying to manage a physical location for a server. But you would need to scale it more. It will be better if you just simply go on AWS, for example. All this information is on AWS. You're peaking, you just buy extra space or extra storage or extra compute power for that day or two, and then go back down. So now you're changing from capital expenditure to operational expenditure, if that matters to whoever you're selling to. But basically, you're not buying an extra server and then using it for just one day. That's as an example. Also, you're not having to maintain all this, because I mentioned all this requires a lot of maintenance, power, electricity, power, heating, cooling. Human beings trying to connect everything. You have to make sure that the whole warehouse where you're hosting these is ESD certified, or basically a lot of things happen there. So, and now before we actually get there, each of these data like servers run on one thing, a database or app. With VMware, with the advent of VMware, you can virtualize, or KVM. You can virtualize, and you can have on the same server running multiple things. Like you can have a VM running a database, a VM running application server, a VM running a web server, etc. Right? And now if this server fails, it can easily move it to another server without having to duplicate it. Like you'll have backup and redundancies and all that, which allows like VMware, which allows AWS on the same server to sell like company A a VM here, company B a VM here. So now you're sharing resources instead of each of you. If you don't need a full server on your own, you can buy pieces of a server or rent space on a server to do your thing. If you need the full server, then you can simply like just book the whole server if it's available, or if you have like whatever tiers that they're going to talk about in the course to book an entire server. So that's from the basic fundamentals of why are we even looking at AWS? Why do we care? Do we need it? Or cloud like GCP or Azure, whatever it is. And that's the basic view that I have of this. That's what it's useful for, if at all. I think it's useful. So these are the first things that I want to talk about. So next time I'm going to be talking about the fundamentals. Like right now it's like pre-fundamentals, like why even AWS and why I want to learn it. Well, like I mentioned, I'm in networking, so I've lived all my life. Like if you have a data center here, well, okay. If you have am I back here? No, let me do this. So if you have a data center here and you have a data center there, I've always been the guy working in the middle, like on the routers and switches to how to get them from point A to point B. Like I used to work for Alcatel-Lucent, and that's what I did. And mostly like with cell phone tower, like cell service and that sort of thing. And why I'm interested in it today is I'm curious what goes on in here. Most of my customers don't do this. Most of my customers also do this. So for me, it's just interesting to know a little bit more about the world. And this is something that I've been curious about. So I'm going to be doing it. Again, if this is helpful to you, if you're looking at going at learning AWS, going through that journey, let me know in the comments below. I guess we're going through this together. I'm at 29% of the course, but I'm going to start like from the beginning and going through the different page parts. I'm doing once a week, hopefully. So just let me know if this is useful. If it's not, well, it might be useful for me anyways to learn and to understand, because they say the best way to learn is to teach. So hopefully I taught you something that's right today. If not, let me know. With that, get back to work. Peace.